At least 3 women have come forward with sexual misconduct allegations against Neil deGrasse Tyson. The astrophysicist turned TV host denies an allegation of rape, while the networks that broadcast his shows, Fox and National Geographic, are investigating. We've reached out to all 3 accusers, and one of them sat down with us to tell her story.
This is our planet.
Neil deGrasse Tyson takes complex science and turns it into entertainment.
This first globe of the Earth.
Now, the astrophysicist, who has become one of the country's most well-known scientists, is accused by at least 3 women of sexual misconduct over a number of years, ranging from inappropriate behavior to unwelcome touching to rape.
I feel better. I'm not scared.
Tachia Ahmet Almat says she and Tyson were friends in the 1980s. Both were graduate astronomy students at the University of Texas. It was there, Almat says, Tyson raped her.
He offered me a glass of water, which I didn't ask for, by the way. I didn't ask for it, but I accepted it. And the next thing I remember is waking or coming to naked in his bed, and I couldn't move.
Hey, Neil. Tyson responded to the accusation in a lengthy Facebook post over the weekend, writing, "It never happened. I remember being intimate only a few times, all at her apartment, but the chemistry wasn't there, so the relationship faded quickly." Which is not how Almat, who first wrote about her allegations in a 2014 blog post before the era of Me Too, remembers it.
I was never intimate with him. Never. I never liked him that way.
Fellow scientist Caitlin Allers tells BuzzFeed Tyson inappropriately touched her tattoo of the solar system in 2009. Tyson apologized in that Facebook post, writing in part, "While I don't explicitly remember searching for Pluto at the top of her shoulder, it is surely something I would have done in that situation," adding, "Going forward, I can surely be more sensitive to people's personal space." Production assistant Ashley Watson, who worked for Tyson on the Fox production Cosmos, tells BuzzFeed the 60-year-old made an unwelcome sexual advance in his home, holding her shoulders and saying, "I want to hug you so bad right now, but I know that if I do, I'll just want more." Tyson confirms on Facebook he made a similar comment, but says, "My intent was to express restrained but genuine affection." Tyson says he welcomes the investigations into his behavior being conducted by both Fox and National Geographic TV networks. Accusations can damage a reputation and a marriage, he writes, sometimes irreversibly. NBC News has not independently verified the women's allegations. We have reached out to Tyson for a response, but he's not commenting beyond what he wrote online. As for Almat's allegation, Tyson accuses the reporter who published it of using her story as a, quote, kind of solicitation bait to get other women to come forward.
All right.
Guys.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you.
Neil deGrasse Tyson, the woke pop scientist who sold out science for Clout. And Neil deGrasse Tyson wants you to think he's the smartest man in the room. He speaks in slow, deliberate tones, smugly corrects movie physics like it's a public service, and endlessly reminds us that he's an astrophysicist, as if that alone validates every opinion he spews. Once a promising scientist, he's now a little more than a pop culture mascot, a walking TED Talk designed for people who think, "I fucking love science memes" count as intellectual discourse. Tyson has traded actual scientific contributions for viral tweets, woke virtue signaling, and Reddit-approved snark. He used to do real work. Key phrase, used to. But his last meaningful research was back when dial-up internet was a thing. His career now consists of Star Talk Radio, endless retweets, and the occasional guest appearance where he gets to look down his nose at the plebs who don't understand astrophysics at his level. But here's the thing. He's not that impressive. He's not Carl Sagan. He's not Richard Feynman. He's not even in the same league as actual active researchers like Brian Greene or Lisa Randall. He's just a science influencer. And the more you dig into his career, the more you realize that he's just another fraud who got high on his own ego.
Is it better thinking? Mm-hmm. Is it better thinking? I know you think that, like, you had a thing with Martina Navratilova.
What do you mean I have nothing? What do you mean?
A beef. Yeah, well, she has beef with you.
Why did she have a beef with me?
Because you think, like, guys with dicks should get in the women's swimming pool, basically.
Well, whatever got clipped and reposted, I don't know. But what I said was that in this emergent space where you have people expressing themselves on a gender spectrum, and you want to now compete in sports, that's still a frontier to be solved. And I don't have the answer, but I can suggest one, whether or not it'll work. Maybe we don't compete by gender anymore. We compete on hormone ratios. Okay? Is it testosterone? There was a woman who had uncommonly high testosterone levels, and they wanted to disqualify her because of how manly she was when she was born a woman and competing as a woman. So if that's how we're going to do it.
You know, this again, this is
what you really want. Wait, Bill, no, I've thought this through more than you might think I have.
Oh.
So what you really want is an interesting contest between people who are similarly talented. The least interesting Super Bowl you could ever watch is a blowout by halftime.
See, what we agree on is that there are anomalies in human nature, whereas,
yes.
You know, the vast majority of people, I'm sorry, are still male or female. And certainly every cell in our body is dictating one of those other sexes. I mean, obviously,
the hormones are. Yeah.
Obviously, also, I make sperm and other people make eggs.
That's what hormones do. Yeah.
You can't deny that. Okay. So but we, as liberals, I think, agree that, you know, there are anomalies in nature and they should be respected and protected. But this attempt to reorganize all of society around what a very tiny percentage, who again we can protect and respect without pretending that every baby is a jump ball like penis. What the fuck? I don't know. That doesn't mean anything. We have no idea what this child is. I mean, that seems to be where you want to go. I mean, like, how many people fit this description that we should reorganize sports around? Sports we have men's sports and women's sports. And if the best team in the WNBA played the worst team in the NBA, the score would be 1,000,000-0. Can we organize society around that basic point with this, of course, proviso that we protect and respect people who do not fit into it?
Let's segregate society between dark-skinned people and light-skinned people, because that nature made it that way, and that's how it is. So,
nature did make it that way. And it's not segregating.
Well, there was a time
segregating anything.
That attitude 150 years ago was
2 years ago. You act like this was yes, right. Lincoln. This was a big issue in the Lincoln-Douglas debates. Trans people. That's right.
No, I'm talking about black,
remember that from
I'm talking about
1861. Yes, I remember those debates.
It was 1860.
Lincoln was all about getting trans. Oh, for fuck's sake. You're ridiculous.
No. So here it is. Just all I'm saying is that, how about this? I'm looking at schools in Manhattan, and there's a school there, and there's built in the 20s and 30s, and there's a doorway that says boys and a separate doorway on the other side of the school that says girls. I'm thinking,
God.
Why are we doing this?
Because people are mostly boys and girls?
But why split them entering a school building?
Because they pee differently? Jesus Christ, I have to explain this?
No, because you know what I thought when I saw that? It's colored fountain over here, white fountain over here. That's what I thought when I saw that.
Well, that's not the same thing.
Well, it's not exactly the same thing, but that's what I thought. It's not exactly, I agree.
Okay.
I agree.
But this is what I always say about these kind of issues. There's two ways that you can be benighted about something. One, you can be too far from it.
Yeah.
Like, I would be too far from certain issues, racial issues, of course. How could I ever know?
Right.
You can also be lost sort of thinking-wise, as I am, because I'm too far from it, if you're too close to it.
Yes.
You
miss the elephant.
Well, you miss the elephant. It's the fly on the Mona Lisa. Mm-hmm. Why the fly wants to be on the Mona Lisa, I don't know, and I can't even appreciate art, but okay, you get my point. And so, like, I think when you see that, I totally understand why a man of your age does, but I don't think it's accurate.
So I used to wrestle, high school and college. Okay? It's relevant to this conversation, believe it or not. So I was captain of my high school team, undefeated, although...
Wow.
But it was in New York. The real wrestlers are in, like, Iowa, you know, in Oklahoma.
Oh, I'm sure there's some wrestlers.
There's some, but if you really balance it out, it's not.
New York has no tough guys?
We got tough guys, but they'll shoot you or punch you in the face. They're not wrestling with wrestling moves. But anyhow, what you want is a match that's interesting to observe, not where one person dominates the other. In wrestling, they know this. There are 10 weight categories. In high school, I was 190 pounds. That was 50 pounds ago or more. I was 190 pounds. Very good incentive to stay there because if I were 1 pound over, the next category was unlimited. So I was there at 190 pounds. I'm not wrestling someone 127. No, they find somebody else at 127 and wrestle 127. That makes the match more interesting for the viewer. So if we can split wrestling into 10 categories and that becomes the wrestling match.
But all men against each other.
Correct. So,
okay,
so now I get
sort
that.
of key point.
Okay. Okay. So all I'm saying is, what is it that makes the man the man? Is it the hormones? Okay.
Okay.
Is it, if it's the hormones and you decide to give yourself a different cocktail of hormones, I'm making this up, by the way. I'm not saying it should happen this way. It's a way to start thinking about it.
It would be
maybe the track meets have hormone categories.
And maybe giving yourself the wrong hormones is deleterious to your health. Would you not admit that? Do you think we can just safely do things like this?
So you feel this way because you're so deeply concerned about the health of the people who are trying to find their place on the gender spectrum? You care about their health so much that you don't want them to go through that?
It's not something that keeps me up at night, but when the subject comes up, I care about them like I care about all people. Mm-hmm. So if there is something...
You do, by the way. You think about all people.
Of course.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Oh, okay. You're being
think
sincere.
about all people. No, I'm being sincere.
Yeah, I do. Yes. Yeah. Old school liberal.
Yeah.
Okay. So I want all people to have, make this very challenging world that we live in better. So that's why there's honest debate about this issue.
From astrophysicist to full-time clout chaser, Neil deGrasse Tyson loves reminding people that he has a PhD in astrophysics, and sure, he earned it in 1991. Since then, his contributions to actual science have been virtually non-existent. The last time he published anything remotely meaningful was in 2008, and even that was a minor work in an obscure journal, not the kind of groundbreaking research that gets your name in textbooks. Since then, he's done nothing. No major discoveries, no significant advancements in astrophysics, nothing. Yet somehow he's managed to become one of the most famous scientists in the world. How? By trading the lab for the limelight, and he's been the director of the Hayden Planetarium since 1996. But what does that really mean? It means he gives tours and approves exhibits. It's an administrative job, not a research position. But in the age of social media, Tyson figured out that he could get more attention by being a snarky know-it-all on TV than by actually doing science. He's the king of pedantic corrections, the guy who shows up after a blockbuster movie and smugly tweets, "Actually, that's not how space works." Sure, Neil, we know that sound doesn't travel in space, but maybe just let people enjoy Star Wars without needing to remind them every 5 minutes. His entire shtick is being the guy who points out the obvious while acting like he's making some profound revelation. And people eat it up because he makes science digestible for the casual nerd. But is he advancing knowledge? He's just a glorified trivia host with a PhD.
From what we knew at the beginning of COVID to what we know today, what do we know about the vaccine today that we didn't know while we were all testing it in America, taking it? What have we learned now?
What do you mean testing it on America? There were tests before it was released.
9 months is not a long time to test.
No, but it was tested.
Yeah, but 9 months. The average is 30. The average is 5 to 10 years. I mean, 9 months is not enough.
Okay, so you have to test. No, you have to ask. Hold on. It was tested in trials. Okay. By the way, I'm not claiming to be the expert on all this. I read all the same things you have, but I'm a scientist, so I read it as a scientist. Okay. There were trials. That's what the point of phase 1, 2, 3 trials are all about. They are tested enough to get data on how to then advise the larger population. Yes, it was tested. For you to say it wasn't tested is a gap between your awareness and understanding how things work and what actually happened. It was tested. If you want it to be tested on millions of people instead of thousands, you can put in for that. You can say, I don't want this unless it's millions. That's okay.
Totally fine with me.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
That's fine. So based on that, do you say, let's keep testing it while the virus keeps spreading? Okay? Right. So this is the contest between the information you have available to you at that moment and what's going on outside the lab. People are dying. Hospitals are becoming overloaded. So, do you say we have good data on the 1,000? It's not yet at 1 million in case you wanted 1 million. Are you going to say, let's still do it let's wait another 6 months so we get another million in here? Will you do that as a public health professional?
No, I would have said, allow the individual to still have a choice that's okay with 1,000 instead of a few million. Leave the person have the choice. Not force him to take it or else you're going to get out of the Marines, and you've been doing this for 14 years. Not force him to take it or else you have to quit your job as a nurse.
There's a public health
force versus
there's a
choice.
There's a public health contract that you have signed implicitly as a citizen of a country where in part we depend on each other for health, our wealth, our security, and the like. And that contract is, in the best scientific evidence available at the time, if you do not get vaccinated, you will put other people in this organization at risk, and that organization does not want to take that risk. So you do not have this job anymore if you decline it. So with any public health decision, there has to be
the woke virtue signaler who preaches instead of teaches. Tyson used to be about science. Now he's a full-time woke pundit in a lab coat, injecting politics into everything he does. Instead of discussing astrophysics, he's lecturing us on climate change, gender identity, and systemic racism in STEM, whether it's relevant or not. And it's not about genuine curiosity or expanding knowledge anymore. It's about staying relevant. Tyson realized that pandering to progressive causes pays better than actual research. So now every interview, tweet, and speech comes with a mandatory dose of social activism. Want to hear about black holes? Not before he tells you why Barbie is the most important movie of our time. Interested in new planetary discoveries? Wait your turn. First, we need to discuss historical injustices. Even his own fans are starting to lose patience. He could have been a modern Carl Sagan, but instead, he became a walking TED Talk for woke ideology, a self-righteous performer who traded real science for clout, and the saddest part, he's fully aware of it.
Do you believe in God?
Me?
Creator?
Yeah, so I'm the more I look at the universe, just the less convinced I am that there is something benevolent going on. So if your concept of a creator is someone who's all powerful and all good, that's not an uncommon pairing of powers that you might ascribe to a creator. All powerful and all good. And I look at disasters that afflict Earth and life on Earth. Volcanoes, hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, disease, pestilence, congenital birth defects. You look at this list of ways that life is made miserable on Earth by natural causes. And I just ask, how do you deal with that? So philosophers rose up and said, if there is a God, God is either not all powerful or not all good. I have no problems if, as we probe the origins of things, we bump up into the bearded man. If that shows up, we're good to go. Okay? Not a problem. There's just no evidence of it. And this is why religions are called faiths, collectively. Because you believe something in the absence of evidence. That's what it is. That's why it's called faith. Otherwise, we would call all religions evidence. But we don't, for exactly that reason. So I'm given what everyone describes to be the properties that would be expressed by an all-powerful being in the gods that they worship. I look for that in the universe and I don't find it. So I remain unconvinced. But if you've got some good evidence, bring it, bring it, okay? And so I don't lead with that information because what I believe should be irrelevant to anyone. It's not about me. It's about the real world.
And then there are his Twitter hot takes. Who could forget his disastrous 2019 tweet after a mass shooting, where he tried to calm people down by listing other ways people die more often, like medical errors and car accidents. It was so tone-deaf, even his own fans turned on him. Instead of sticking to science, he thought playing edgy statistician was a good idea. The backlash was so bad that he issued a groveling apology, proving once again that he's just another woke celebrity who backs down the moment the outrage mob turns on him. And of course, he loves lecturing the public about how science isn't political right before going on long-winded rants about systemic oppression in STEM. It's never just about explaining the wonders of the universe with this guy. It's about reminding you that he's on the right side of history. Fumbles, fallacies, and flat-out embarrassments. For someone who loves correcting people, Tyson sure gets a lot of things wrong. Remember when he completely misquoted President George W. Bush in an attempt to make him look anti-science? He claimed Bush said, "Our God is the God who named the stars," as a way to exclude Muslims, Hindus, and atheists. Turns out Bush never said it that way at all. Tyson just made it up. And when he got caught, he shrugged it off like it was no big deal. Then there was his infamous math fail, where he mocked people for saying half of all schools are below average. He smugly implied that this was mathematically impossible, exposing the fact that he didn't understand how averages work. Yes, the world's most famous scientist got basic statistics wrong, but does he ever own up to his mistakes? Number. He just laughs them off and moves on while still acting like he's the smartest guy in the room.
And now, for another edition of Neil deGrasse Tyson reads mean tweets. Josh from school. That's his Twitter handle. Josh from school. Neil Tyson is such a dweeb. Nobody watches science fiction movies for the science. I wouldn't say nobody watches the science fiction movies for the science. I would say for sure Josh from school doesn't watch science fiction movies for the science. But if you watch science fiction movies for the science, you can get ideas about how to invent tomorrow. So, among all those who are inventing tomorrow, I do not expect to see Josh from school among them. Twitter handle, "Put your knife in me." That's creepy. You can respect Neil deGrasse Tyson as much as you want. Doesn't change the fact that he seems like the worst person to watch movies with. First, let me set something straight. During a movie, I don't say a thing. It's after the movie I talk. Second, I know I'm not the worst person to see a movie with, and I think you'll agree with me on this. The worst person to see a movie with is the person who read the book first. Oh my God. Oh, that didn't happen in the book. That character wasn't like that. Well, get the hell out of the movie theater. Nobody told you to come watch the movie. Go back to your damn book. This is from Bryn Wolf. Neil deGrasse Tyson has ruined me for sci space movies. I can't watch a flight scene without getting annoyed at hearing wind. Yep, join the club. This one from World Chimps. Neil Tyson, you seem to take pleasure proving Hollywood space movies wrong. Why? Can't you just enjoy space-themed movies? They're entertainment. I agree they're entertainment, and I do enjoy them. Suppose you went to see a period piece, took place in the middle 19th century, and people come out in their gowns and their hoop skirts or whatever they were wearing in the day, and then someone shows up in tie-dyed bell-bottoms. You would cry foul. You would say that is inaccurate, because at that time, tie-dye bell-bottoms didn't exist yet. And you would say you were taken out of the moment of the suspended disbelief of that film. You were denying me, the scientist, the same right of commentary on whether a director or a producer did their homework first. Phil the pastor. Come on, Neil, I get it. Science movies excite you, but you gotta chill with the spoilers. I agree, I don't intend to spoil anything. It's not on purpose. So here's one, JTLOL. Hashtag, when I was your age, riffing on my series of tweets. When I was your age, I spoiled movies like that jerk, Neil Tyson. That concludes another episode of Neil deGrasse Tyson Reads Mean Tweets.
Sexual misconduct allegations, the story that got swept under the rug. In 2018, multiple women accused Tyson of sexual misconduct. The allegations ranged from inappropriate advances to unwanted touching and even drugging a woman in the 1980s. Now, to be fair, he was never formally charged, and a 2019 internal investigation by his employers cleared him. But let's be real, if Tyson were a conservative, he would have been canceled instantly. The media would have dragged him through the mud, and he would have been exiled from public life. Instead, he got the standard woke VIP treatment, a slap on the wrist, a quiet internal review, and then back to business as usual. If a Fox News host had been accused of even half of what Tyson was, the outrage machine would still be going. But since he's part of the approved crowd, it got buried faster than one of his bad movie takes.
So
it's called the Planetary Protection Program in NASA. It's a whole division of NASA. It's like, whoa,
yeah,
I've got this huge bat. Remember the old Death Star? It has enough power to destroy a planet, and that's devastating. This one, it can suck energy out of a star so that the star no longer exists. Then it could take these energy beams and kill 6 planets at once.
what?
Grip
Right.
matters.
Right.
Where your
Where it
2 hands
feels.
go and what they feel.
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
I guess that makes sense.
So it's not that that's easy to accomplish, but knowing this, you realize how much easier it is to score than you might have otherwise thought.
I wonder if basketball
So that was a
players-
recent revelation.
That's a good
that I had.
revelation.
Yeah.
I wonder if basketball players occasionally practice with a smaller hole.
I think about this all the time. And you could say, well, okay, that's pretty simple, low-tech solution. Why couldn't we just discover that on our own without the $20 billion a year space agency called NASA? Because you can't just plug it into the 120-volt socket when you're floating in space. So the engineer said, how are we going to solve this problem?
You can sound articulate and smooth, and you can do it in a very professional-looking manner.
Or
where
do
you-
it passionately.
Yes, passionately, convincingly, charismatically.
We all, by the way, I'll do this right now in this room. There's only 3 of us, but
Stop. That's not true. Stop. That's not how it works.
Right.
Let me show you why this is incorrect. Let me
So-
show you how.
20% of people just get pissed off. 80% really like it and they want more. But that 20%, they cut me no slack. And I'm only doing this for people to enjoy. And if I have that level of hate mail, I don't need to continue it. So I just basically stop. I'll have these thoughts to myself, but I don't have the urge to share them. I still have the thoughts.
And I'd say thank you, but I'm going to go to the flying car, please.
Final thoughts, a star that's burned out. Neil deGrasse Tyson isn't a great scientist. He's not even an active scientist. He's a pop science mascot, a self-important media personality who spends more time trying to sound smart than actually doing anything useful. He's given up actual scientific work to be a celebrity. He's more concerned with Twitter clout than telescopes, more interested in scoring woke points than pushing the boundaries of astrophysics. At this point, he's nothing more than a meme, a relic of the early 2000s and 10s I love science crowd. The real tragedy? There are brilliant scientists out there doing actual work, but they don't get TV shows because they don't pander to social media trends like Tyson does, and he could have been something great. Instead, he chose to be a smug, self-righteous celebrity scientist whose biggest contribution to the world is ruining people's enjoyment of movies. Yeah, the only thing bigger than his ego is the black hole of actual scientific accomplishments in his career.